Darkness gathers without mercy. Mercy evaporates under ambition. If they redefine enemies, the jungle answers back.
The Cartel Apocalypse in theaters now.
And just when you thought the insanity couldn't get any worse, hold on to your seats, because what I'm about to show you will make your blood boil. This morning on MSNBC, Democrat Senator Mark Warner looked into the camera and openly called for our military to overthrow a sitting president. His exact words: "I think in many ways the uniformed military may help save us from this president." A sitting U.S. senator calling for a coup on national television. Now let that sink in, America. The vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee just told our troops to turn against their commander-in-chief. And why? Because Trump and the Secretary of War are doing what no administration has had the guts to do: hunting down and eliminating the narco-terrorists poisoning our children with fentanyl. Since Trump designated cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, our military has been striking drug boats in the Caribbean and Pacific, killing the smugglers responsible for over 100,000 American deaths a year. Of course, the Democrats are furious, so they released that seditious video. The so-called seditious 6 senators, Mark Kelly, Elisa Slotkin, Representatives Crow, DeLuzio, Goodlander, Houlihan, all telling troops to refuse orders. Secretary Hegseth called it exactly what it was: a politically motivated influence operation. And of course, now the Pentagon is investigating Kelly for potential court-martial under the UCMJ. The FBI is scheduling interviews with all 6 and President Trump, calling it seditious behavior punishable by death. And hot off the wire right now, a deal that is worth watching has just closed in Nevada. AmeriCorps Resources, that's ticker AMCOF in the U.S. and AMCO in Canada, they've acquired the Trinity Silver project from Newmont. Newmont did not walk away, though. They became a shareholder in AmeriCorps. When a nearly $100 billion mining giant takes equity in a junior, pay attention. Trinity has over 5 million ounces of historic silver production and estimates of 28 million ounces still in the ground. AmeriCorps is already sitting on 800,000 ounces in stockpile. At $50 silver, that's $40 million in metal value, multiples above the company's market cap. Stock price sits at 25 cents. Think about that. Silver just hit record highs as well. If you want to find out more, go to the link in the description for the details, and we thank them for supporting this show. You still with me? Good, because we're just getting started. And while Warner calls for military mutiny over these narco strikes, wait to hear what Sonny Hostin said we should do with the traffickers our troops are eliminating. And Senator Jack Reed dismissing cartel operatives as harmless smugglers. You can't make this stuff up. Here is Senator Mark Warner openly calling for a coup against the President of the United States.
His lame, unprecedented disrespect when they were all brought to get a pep rally in front of Hegseth and Trump. This is an administration that's fired, uniform generals from the head of the NSA, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Mm-hmm. And I think in many ways, the uniformed military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth, because I think their commitment is to the Constitution and obviously not to Trump, and I expect Bradley to adhere to that.
So, Senator, let's go a little further on this. What are concerns you have about the legality of these strikes at all?
The uniformed military may help save us from this president and Hegseth, another seditious Democrat. And speaking of lunatics, The View's Sonny Hostin says that the U.S. should be taking foreign narco-terrorists into our country to give them refuge and take care of them.
Do you know why? I can't speak to the law of it. I don't know, I'm not a geopolitical expert. But in terms of the law of it, you're right, Sarah. That is why those Army vets explained, do not follow, you do not have to follow illegal orders. You know why? Because if this is deemed to have been war crimes, which by all accounts right now, there are 7 sources that said Pete Hegseth did say kill them all, even after there were 2 survivors. What you're supposed to do under international law, you are supposed to take those fighters as war criminals, prisoners of war, and you're supposed to give them refuge, and you're supposed to take care of them, and then you are supposed to put them into a court of law. Instead, I can't speak to the law of it. I don't know, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but in terms of the law of it, you're right, Sarah.
She goes ahead and says it. That's how smart these people are over there at The View. And we have this. Mark Short writes, I support the president's efforts to protect America from narco-terrorists. Our men and women in uniform are remarkable. This over on CNN.
Look, I think that I support the president's efforts to protect America from narco-terrorists. I think there's a lot of critics in this town, and I think it's actually a responsible effort on his part to be protecting America's shores from drug smugglers. As the general said, I don't see the president ducking responsibility for this. He's taken responsibility. At the same time, I think it is important to have the inquiry. I think we have the most remarkable men and women serving in uniform. They are not trained to shoot fish in a bottle. And so I think that in a barrel. And I think in this case, it's important to know, did they know there were non-combatants that were alive and clinging to that vessel, or did they not know? And I think that that's important to get to the bottom, because in the world, we stand as a stark contrast to the way Russia's prosecuting its war against Ukraine. And it's important that we continue to do that. And so I think it's important to get to the bottom of this. But at this point, I think, I'm not one to sit here and throw stones at the president. I think the president's accepting responsibility for the attack. And I think it's important we get to the bottom of the matter, too. Look.
Okay. And then we have this. RNC Research calls it insane. Democrat Jack Reed dismisses criminals smuggling illegal drugs into the country as not narco-terrorists, just people trying to make some money. Oh, my God, these people are delusional.
And usually, one of the factors that drives youth in the United States is demand. And most narco traffickers are not in those boats. They pay people to do that. And usually people are not significantly involved with narco trading. It's the way they make money. Mm-hmm. One of the factors that drives...
Well, if you're in the boat, you are a narco-terrorist. You are a trafficker. No matter how much money you need to make that day. GOP Senator Eric Schmidt calls it the language of a color revolution.
But this Democrat...
Do you support Chairman Wicker holding investigation of the second strike?
There's not going to be... that's not going to happen.
He said he was...
That's not going to happen. There's going to be oversight like we've had, but this Democrat dream of some sort of hearing when Pete Hegseth and President Trump, well within their articles of powers to take out narco-terrorists who are poisoning 100,000 Americans every year, it's not going to happen. So we're going to have oversight. We always have oversight. But this desire by the Democrats to try to find some new thing, and I just want to put this, they're talking about prosecuting servicemen and women. So it's not enough that they censored Americans. It's not enough that they prosecuted their political opponent and tried to keep them from getting back in the White House. This is really, really dangerous road to go down. This isn't the language of we'll beat him in the next election, or we're going to have the debate in public and let the public weigh in. This is the language of a color revolution.
So it's your assessment after seeing the video that the Trump administration acted within its legal authority?
100%. 100%.
And did you learn that this morning,
and I say
or
that,
was that your assessment all along?
From everything that I've seen, absolutely 100%. And to try to portray it as something otherwise, again, like I said, is incredibly dangerous.
NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman will be having a hearing tomorrow. What do you make of his nomination, and how do you...
I think he's going to be great. I really do. I think NASA needs the sort of steady leadership. We're in a real competition from a commercial space perspective with China. I think he understands that, and we need to be the world leader. There's a lot of things on the line in the next decade that a lot of people aren't talking about, whether it's the moon, whether it's Mars, just sort of the capabilities that we have. So I think he's going to do a great job.
Can you clarify, when did you see this video of the September 2nd?
No, I've seen the report. I've seen the public reporting. But again, I just want to be clear. This nonsense about it being a war crime is total bullshit. It's all they have. They're just, and the desire then to treat him as a war criminal, to treat servicemen as war criminals, is beyond just like a normal political debate. That's what's happening right now. They don't have anything left. This is insane. And so again, the Washington Post narrative, which was again anonymous sources, the New York Times totally debunks that today. So don't take it from me as a conservative Republican. Take it from the New York Times. This is nonsense. Clearly, you have narco-terrorists who are no longer going to make it through the southern border on land. They're on the high seas. President Trump has every right in the Western Hemisphere or anywhere to take out these terrorists who are poisoning our kids. So again, I just think they've had it in for Hegseth from the beginning. This won't be the last time, by the way, we see some nonsense about Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth and this is the underlying story, and I think you guys probably know this. He's a real threat to permanent Washington. He's a realist. He's not somebody who is forever wars and stupid wars. That's not who he is, and they know it. And they never want him to be Secretary of War, and they're trying to take him out now. But this is a nonsense story. 100% legal justification for taking out the narco-terrorist boats.
100% justification. But the media is running with it. Now, Rand Paul says labeling people narco-terrorists without proof just to justify killing them is not the law. It's lunacy. This policy risks dragging America into another foreign war. He says we need transparency, oversight, and respect for the Constitution. Now, I agree with that. However, they're operating, and I've said this before in response to Rand, they're still operating under the article, it's the same law, I forget the name of it now, that the authorization for the use of force, military force, that they used post 9/11, because that law is still on the book. So by simply designating them terrorist organizations, they can treat them the same way they would treat groups in the Middle East. Okay? So this is it, America. Democrats have gone from resisting Trump to actively calling for our military to overthrow him because he's killing drug traffickers. From Schumer's threats to Warner's coup rhetoric to the seditious 6 PSYOP video, they lost at the ballot box, so now they're trying to turn our armed forces against our commander-in-chief.
Defense Intelligence Agency.
Our commander-in-chief, while defending the very narco-terrorists murdering 100,000 Americans annually. This is color revolution tactics, and every patriot needs to understand what's at stake. So what we've covered here, I've covered politics for 2 decades. I've never seen anything like this. A senator openly calling for military intervention against a duly elected president. 6 lawmakers telling troops to disobey orders because they're upset we're killing drug traffickers. A TV host demanding we give sanctuary to cartel operatives. This is no longer politics. This is an attempted coup in slow motion, triggered because Trump finally declared war on the cartels poisoning our nation. But here's what they don't understand. Our military voted overwhelmingly for Trump. They took an oath to the Constitution, not to Chuck Schumer or to Mark Warner. They will follow their commander-in-chief, and they will keep hunting narco-terrorists until every last one is eliminated. So the question is whether we hold these seditious actors accountable, whether the FBI interviews lead to charges, whether Mark Kelly faces that court-martial. You see, the American people are watching, and we will not forget. So my question for you, should these lawmakers face prosecution for calling on our military to defy orders while defending drug traffickers? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments, and let's talk about it. And while you're there, hit up our merch shop and support the show.